I'm a much better player physically, mentally than I was last year.
The red clay of the Foro Italico has a way of holding onto stories. It'll them into the dirt, pressing them flat under every footfall, every baseline rally, every desperate.
Sometimes one match can change a lot for you, especially when you're changing season. Clay, not my strongest surface.
There is a moment in sport that never really ends. It just waits. It sits in the back of an athlete's mind during early morning practice sessions, during the quiet between points, during the long flights between tournaments where the window is dark and sleep refuses to come. For Alex Eala, that moment arrived on January 10th, in Auckland, New Zealand, under stadium lights with the noise of a crowd holding its breath. She was one swing away from a WTA final. One forehand. 1 point. The ball left her racket aimed hard into the juice corner, the kind of shot you hit when your body knows before your brain does, the kind of shot champions trust themselves to make when the match is right there in their hands. And it sailed long. By centimeters. Not by a foot, not by half a court, but by the kind of margin that makes the moment feel even more brutal because it was so close. Wang Xinyu exhaled, broke back, and walked away with a result that 4 months later still does not sit right with anyone who watched it happen. That moment has been waiting since January. And if you have been paying attention to women's tennis this year, if you have been tracking what Eala has been doing on clay, how she has been moving, how she has been fighting, what she said in press conferences and what her opponents have quietly admitted about her, then you already know that May 8th at the Foro Italico in Rome is not just another second-round match. It is a sentence being completed. Let me take you back to Auckland properly, because I think a lot of people have reduced that match to its scoreline, and that is exactly the wrong way to understand what happened. Eala did not lose that semi-final because she was outplayed. She did not lose it because Wang was clearly the better player. She lost it because she was 2 centimeters unlucky at the worst possible moment. Think about what actually happened inside that match. Eala was broken twice early, trailing 0-4, and at that point most players start doing the mental math, start managing the disappointment, start playing not to get bageled rather than playing to win. She did the opposite. She reeled off 6 straight games. 6. The crowd inside that stadium, which was packed because every ticket had sold out and people were gathered around screens outside with ground passes just to be near it, they felt the shift happen in real time. She took the first set 7-5. She built a 5-3 lead in the second. She served for the match. She reached match point at 40-30 and then one forehand was 2 centimeters too ambitious and Wang, who had been scrambling for most of the match, grabbed that lifeline and ran with it. The second set went to Wang 7-5. In the third, Wang broke twice early and led 4-0. Eala took a medical timeout for a back and shoulder issue. She was down a set, down a break, compromised physically, and the scoreline looked like it was writing itself toward a comfortable Wang victory. But then she came back out and broke. Made it 5-4. Forced Wang to serve out the match under real pressure, made her earn those final points rather than just receiving them as gifts. The final score reads Wang 5-7, 7-5, 6-4, and somewhere in how clean that looks on paper is buried the truth that Wang herself admitted at the post-match press conference. She said, and I want you to really hear these words, she said Eala is such a fighter and she felt the pressure even when she was up 5-1. She said Eala just relaxed and started playing amazing tennis and put her under great pressure all the time. Then she said there was nothing much she could do from her side other than just clap for the good shots. Clap. For the good shots. That is the woman who technically won that match, sitting in front of microphones, describing herself as an observer of Eala's brilliance. Remember that sentence, because we are going to come back to it. Now fast forward to Rome 2026 and understand why the conditions of this rematch are not just different from Auckland but almost exactly reversed. Start with the surface, because the surface matters more than people give it credit for when they look at head-to-head records. Wang's only win over Eala came on hard courts. Hard courts suit Wang's game, flat ball striking, first strike tennis, short rallies where she can take the ball early and finish points before they develop. Clay does the opposite of all of that. It slows the ball down. It kicks the bounce higher. It rewards topspin, physical endurance, and the willingness to grind through long exchanges. Every weapon Wang leaned on in Auckland becomes harder to use, harder to time, harder to trust when the surface is slow red clay. And here is the thing that the head-to-head stat of 1-0 completely obscures. They have never played each other on clay. Not once. So that record Wang holds is a hardcourt record. The surface under their feet in Rome has never been tested between them. That is not a footnote. That is the entire foundation of this match shifting. Then look at what the serve data tells us, because Eala as a left-handed returner is specifically designed by geometry and statistics to cause problems for exactly what Wang's numbers show. Wang hits 64% on first serves. She averages over 3 double faults per match. In 3/4 of her matches she records at least 1.5 double faults. On clay, where the surface absorbs pace and every first strike exchange requires slightly more margin, those numbers trend worse not better. Now imagine being Wang in a tight second set, needing her first serve to hold, with the clay slowing her rhythm and Eala's left-handed return pulling the ball wide to angles that are uncomfortable by design. The double fault in that moment is not a surprise. The data has been pointing at it for months. Beyond the surface and the serve numbers, look at what has happened to both players in the weeks leading into this draw. Wang's most recent match before Rome was a loss to a player ranked well outside the top 100 at a WTA 125 event in La Bisbal. She then received a first-round bye in Rome, which sounds like an advantage until you realize she now walks into the second round carrying match rust, no clay rhythm, and the weight of a loss still sitting somewhere in her body. She has not won a match in weeks. She is bringing no momentum into this. Eala's most recent match before facing Wang was a 3-set battle on this exact Rome clay against Magdalena Frolik, coming back from 3-1 down in the deciding set when the situation looked difficult and winning. And not just winning mechanically, but winning with awareness. At a changeover mid-third set she told her team she was not finishing points with enough intensity, diagnosed the problem herself, and then immediately corrected it in the next game. That is not something you can coach from the outside in real time. That is a player who understands her own game at a level that only comes from experience and self-trust. Monday, Wang lost to a player outside the top 100. Wednesday, Eala survived a crisis and won. Thursday, Wang sat with a bye and waited. The arrows on this match are not subtle. And the broader trajectory of 2026 for both players tells an even more complete story. Wang had one excellent week in Auckland where she defeated Eala on match-point luck, reached the final, and then lost to Alina Svitolina 6-3-7-6. Since then she went to Indian Wells and was dismissed 6-3-6-1 by Agla Tomjanovic. The trajectory of her season is not a line pointing upward. It is a player who had one brilliant week and has been searching for that form in every tournament since. Eala's clay season, Stuttgart, Linz, Madrid, all ended earlier than she wanted, and there is no reason to pretend otherwise. But early clay exits are not the story. The story is what the Frolik match in Rome revealed. When the third set turned against her at 3-1 down, the exact kind of psychological pressure point that collapsed the Auckland match point moment, she did not repeat the pattern. She held. She fought back. She won. Growth is not what athletes say about themselves in interviews. Growth is what they do when the match turns against them and everyone watching expects them to crumble. Now I want to talk about something that goes beyond statistics and match reports, because there are people in this sport whose assessments carry a different kind of weight. Mats Wilander won 7 Grand Slam titles. 3 of them came at the French Open. On clay. On the exact surface where Eala and Wang will meet in Rome. He is not someone who trades in hype or flattery. His reputation as Eurosport's lead voice was built over decades on the back of technical precision and the willingness to say uncomfortable things when the evidence demands it. When Wilander assessed Alexandra Eala, he did not offer a diplomatic compliment. He said she has hands given by God. 4 words from a man who has seen every generation of tennis talent for 40 years, a man who understands clay like a first language. He chose those 4 words for a 20-year-old from the Philippines. And when you hold that alongside Wang's own press conference admission that she could do nothing but applaud, you start to realize the verdict on this match was not written on May 8th. It was written in Auckland in January and confirmed by every match since. A win in Rome does not just close the Auckland chapter. It opens the door to what might be the most anticipated match in women's tennis right now. Elena Rybakina, world number 2, Australian Open champion, clay court winner in Stuttgart this season, is the likely third-round opponent for whoever advances. Rybakina and Eala have never played each other on the WTA Tour. Not once. The moment that match is confirmed, it becomes the only conversation in women's tennis. Beyond the bracket, the ranking arithmetic of Rome is significant in a way that makes this tournament feel even more loaded. Eala has just 20 ranking points to defend here and at Roland Garros combined after first-round exits at both events last year. Every round she advances in Rome is a net gain. Every win moves her live ranking back toward the career high of 29 she reached in March. Roland Garros begins on May 18th and she arrives there carrying whatever momentum Rome builds. These two tournaments are not separate events on a schedule. They are a runway, and right now she is accelerating. For over 110 million Filipinos at home and across diaspora communities from Dubai to Los Angeles to Riyadh, this is not a tennis match on a streaming service. It is appointment viewing. It is national news that spreads itself across every outlet and every social feed and every WhatsApp group at 2 in the morning local time because people refuse to miss it. The kind of story that does not need promotion because it already lives in the hearts of everyone who stayed up through the Auckland night and watched her claw from 0 to 4 to 5 to 3 and completely believed, that the match point was going to land. And then watched it sail long by centimeters. They were not wrong about what they saw. Wang's own words confirmed it. The honest version of this story includes everything that came after Auckland too, because it would be incomplete to pretend the path here was clean. Eala took a medical timeout in that third set in Auckland. She was injured, down a set and a break, and she came back out and broke anyway. Then she was back on court at the Kooyong Classic days later. She played her first Australian Open. She ground through a clay season that has not given her the results she wanted. She arrived at the Foro Italico, a tournament where 12 months ago she lost 0-6, 1-6, and this time she beat Froelich in 3 sets after coming back from a deficit. Nobody gave her an easy path. Nobody handed her rhythm or confidence or momentum. She showed up and fought for every point of it. That is the player Wang Xinyu faces on May 8th. Not the Auckland version who missed a match point. The Rome version who has already proven on this exact clay 2 days ago that she can fall behind, identify her own problem, correct it mid-match, and come through the other side. Wang arrives without match rhythm, without clay momentum, carrying a loss to a player outside the top 100, and bringing a press conference confession from January where she admitted Eala's tennis left her nothing to do but applaud. She arrives on a surface that erases the only head-to-head advantage she holds. She arrives against a player who just survived a crisis on this same red clay and came out stronger for it. The forehand that sailed long in Auckland, 2 centimeters, January 10th, it has been waiting 4 months for its answer. And the answer is being written right now on clay in Rome, 1 point at a time, by a player who has already paid whatever price Auckland asked of her and came back sharper for having paid it. The only question left, the one worth dropping in the comments below, is what happens after. If Eala wins and earns that third-round date with Rybakina, can she do it? Can a player ranked 39th take a set off the world number 2 on clay in Italy? Think about that before you answer, because 4 months ago a lot of people would have told you she could not come back from 0-4 in the first set of a semifinal either. The clay is waiting. The rematch is here. And whatever happens next, you do not want to find out about it after the fact.